Welcome to Venator Chronicles Podcast. I'm Ethan Taylor.
And I'm Dustin Jelly.
Our hope is to inspire new and old hunters alike.
We hope you can join us on this journey of lessons that we have, are, and will learn through the world of hunting.
We are here, Dusty.
Welcome back.
How's it going?
It's going.
Dude.
Man, we're another month closer to deer season finally being here.
I don't know about you, but I am getting the anxiety of an unprepared hunter, which I think and hope everyone feels.
I feel that every year. That's why I switched over to tread bow.
Yeah.
I like feeling insecure about my abilities.
Still, I mean, we could go.
You just gotta embrace it, Ethan. Insecurity. It's like a warm blanket.
You know, what's nice is that I do feel like you're saying when I think you were talking about how if you want, like you can kind of justify your standards each year, and if you just increase the difficulty, and next year you went to your trad bow now, and then Atlatl will be next, just so that you can be like, I got to take any buck or any deer just because, I'm using such a
primitive weapon.
Yeah. So
keep your expectations low there, buddy.
Yeah, it makes sense. That's a good way to go with it.
Man, how are you doing?
I am doing quite well. I think time management is on my mind. How
as far as time management?
I would say life, and then as pertains to this podcast, I would say hunting.
Been out scouting much?
I have. Yes and no. I've done a lot of e-scouting. Just looking at, I love that we have so much public land. I really do. So I found a few places that I wanted to go on, get the boots on the ground, go check it out, some hard line.
Boots on the ground.
So there's this wetland area, and I'm like, oh, cool. It's like a mile walk back there, and half of it's in the wetlands. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go where nobody wants to go. I was feeling good. I was going to go check out this hard tree line, just kind of in the middle of nowhere. And
you ran into a homeless man from Superior?
Pretty close. No, I went out there and I'm like, this happens so often. And anyone follow me on my Instagram story, they probably saw it. But it was like, I get out to right the sweet spot that I'm like, this is where I came to be, baby. Here we are, and let's check it out. And as soon as I start walking, it's like, and there's a ladder stand. Okie dokie.
Was it a newer or older one?
The rope was really nice. There is a pretty new chair up there. So I went ahead and just destroyed everything and left. Just kidding. I didn't do that. I just looked at it and I was like,
you're too nice.
I was like, okay. And there was no trail camera for me to make a face into.
No photobombing?
At the very least, I wanted to, yeah.
It's my favorite part about finding some random trail camera.
Yeah.
Photobombing it.
Yep. So anyway, I left that alone. But I got out there, and for me, when I find that stuff, one of my favorite things to do is find like super old stands. For some reason, I'm like, can you imagine the memories like stored in some of these where they're just falling apart, totally dilapidated? And I see those and like, I don't know what it is in me, but I'm like, that's legit. Nice. I love it. But anyway, so when I run into these stands, when I think I'm out in the middle of nowhere, initially it's discouraging, but the way I've twisted it into a positive spin is being like, oh, well, I must have the right idea. I'm going to the areas where the deer should be.
Going far enough.
Yeah, and so
that is the downside about public land, especially a lot of the areas you and I like to go to or close by, is they're not huge parcels of land. So.
Yeah, and so then anyway, as I was walking back, and there happened to be this new clear cut, and I was like, all right, well, I'll go check that out.
Oh, new clear cut.
Yeah.
I thought you said nuclear cut.
Yeah, it was a nuclear cut. There was, the city's leveled all around it, just hoping for some freak
That
bucks.
is Superior, folks.
Just looking for some nuclearly freak bucks. No, but so what this kind of caused for me is I was like, I did all this e-scouting and I'm checking it out. I'm doing checking out the topo and looking at all the areas around there and trying to get out in the middle of nowhere. And then I go out there and I'm disappointed. And then I go like wrestling with the idea of like, I know it's not a waste of time because you still got to check and you can at least like, okay, this area's been in use.
Yeah. Well, at least
the way most people hunt is not mobile. So I'm
Yeah.
assuming that guy's going to come out there exactly the same way
Yeah.
every single time. Who knows how much it's overhunted. And so for me, it's like, all right, well, these are pretty probably educated deer. There wasn't an overwhelming amount of sign. There's greenery. So I'm walking back and I'm like, how am I going to figure out before deer season where I'm going to hunt? Because I talk about wanting to raise my standards for the next year.
I know where you need to hunt.
Where am I going to hunt?
The back of your in-laws' place. I think
So many
just
deer.
sit up on that roof.
I mean, as long as it's their property, right? Just having a deer running around through town.
There's nothing
with,
illegal
stuck
about
in it.
that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So finally, I was talking to Seth quite a bit and trying to figure out how to cast this wide net and what that looks like without having a ton of time to do it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up trail cameras as I normally would. But what I'm going to do is not a bait pile because I don't want to change their habits and their bedding areas and like reliance on a bait pile. And I know
Don't want to spread that CWD.
not why I'm not doing that, but okay. But what I am, the reason I'm not doing it is to kind of mitigate like changing a bunch of habits, getting deer that are only coming at night, and just like pattern to this food. What I am going to do though is I'm going to put a mineral block out there. And what I'm trying to do with that is trying to just get stock of a certain area. And so I might leave it out there 3 weeks, check the camera, and be like, is there something that I want to pursue in this area?
Yeah.
If not, I'm moving my camera and I'm moving the mineral block. If I do see something, I'm pulling the mineral block and I am going to start breaking down that area seriously, different entry points, all that kind of stuff.
Cool.
So that's how my spreading of a wide net before the season is going to play out, I think. So, yeah.
Nice.
What about you, dude? What have you been up to? You get some
Yeah.
scooting in?
I got some scooting in, checking out some other areas. I pulled a couple trail cams that I had set up, and probably my hottest area, I had them set over these two little beaver dams that I had found late last season. That
Watch your mouth.
Yeah, I know. I said, damn. Oh, boy.
Explicit.
Yeah, explicit. It's a beaver's fault. So it was kind of fun pulling those and seeing all the deer. There's a lot of deer. Unfortunately, I don't think any of them are bucks. It seemed predominantly does and yearlings. I didn't even see any fawns.
What was your time frame on that camera out there?
That was end of April to end of June, and
I suppose you'd see some growth.
yeah,
As far as like you wouldn't see any monster bucks walking around at that point. But
There's no 30-point bucks. I was a little disappointed.
yeah.
So I didn't see. Yeah, there's no velvet or anything. So definitely, it told me a lot. Actually, so I had quite a few pictures up until I think it was like June 22nd or something, and then by then the ferns in the area grew up so high that there was nothing afterwards.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But it did. Yeah. So not only did I see a lot of deer, saw some geese, some coyotes, unfortunately, couple beavers, and a couple bears. I was actually pretty surprised to see the bears. I had no clue that they're in that area. So.
Yeah, well, actually, that brings to mind I did end up running to my what I call my buck spot because there's at least 3 bucks running around there, not very mature yet.
Yeah.
But I did pull my camera from that area. It was there for almost a year actually.
Nice.
And primarily, I think the biggest buck I had on there was 6 points.
Okay.
And from last year, obviously, and then there's
It's like a monster for a tradbow guy.
Well, I mean, it's a record for an Atlatl guy. I mean, why not? Let's get out there, man. So I did pull the card for that, and I saw a wolf, coyotes, a bobcat.
I remember you showing me those.
And this was just the most recent one.
Oh, okay.
We had seen those during the winter.
Okay.
Because I did go back out there when the snow was like up to my thighs, and you're like, oh, you need to get gators.
Some gators.
It's like this for 1 month out of the year.
But it's so worth it in that 1 month. Gators and non-cotton base layers. Chris Peterson would approve of that.
Oh boy. You're probably right, and I know I'm working on it. Right, guys.
All right.
Jeez, I'm in transition here. God.
Anyhow.
So anyway, I had a lot of different critters on there. Good deer. I saw some fawns and stuff. So everything was looking good in that area, but I think I'm going to kind of store that. I'm going to leave that alone for probably a year or two.
Nice.
And then I'm going to come back and And next
Next year.
year, I'll probably put a camera back, let that soak. But I'm not going there like to hunt this year, if that makes
Okay.
sense. So that camera is kind of that one's been moved, and that's what's going to be over the new
Nice.
clear cut area. I'm going to check out and see what's in that area.
Nice.
Yeah, dude, it's been good.
So
Yeah.
you've been kind of going through a little bit of a learning curve, learning process,
Yeah.
growth.
How to utilize that? Oh, yeah, that too.
Oh boy.
Utilizing time for us that have families and whatnot, but also what we've been doing. I think is what you're leading into.
Yes, I was leading
yeah,
into.
yeah, and it would have been a smooth
I
transition.
was trying to
had
lead.
Had I let you
Oh,
complete
oh,
it, it would have been a
man.
great transition.
Yeah, we would have nailed
Slash
it. Nailed it
segue.
like bullseye.
Yeah. Well, what have we been able to do the last couple few weeks?
few
I
weeks.
don't know what.
Actually, get out and shoot together,
Yeah,
which has been a miracle.
It's been the first time.
We can do a podcast together. Get together almost on like weekly to bi-weekly, schedule, and yet we could never figure out a time to get together to actually shoot.
Yeah,
Go figure.
Yeah, well, there's not a lot of places where there's light at 9 or later at night.
Yeah, that's also true.
Just a tad bit of a hindrance.
So yeah, so we've been out shooting together early Monday mornings. Some coffee and archery. It's been fun.
Oh,
Nothing like
so refreshing.
waking up super early. Actually, I've really enjoyed it. If I'm honest, like I actually dislike getting up super early because I work super late, and I don't normally like doing anything super early.
Yep.
I will say it's been a lot of fun getting up at 5 some a.m. in the morning to go shoot bows.
Yeah, and for me, it's part of it is I already get up early in the morning, so like
Yeah.
when
you don't sleep, period.
yeah, I really don't sleep that
Yeah.
much. Usually in bed at 11 or 12 at night, and then up at 4:45 each morning.
That's gross.
It's not the. I mean, I'm pretty low key late at night. But yeah, so for me it wasn't a big deal, and as of right now I have a shorter drive. But with the schedule change, I might be driving up to you once in a while
Oh boy,
if you're up for that. So
always up for that.
all right, cool.
That means I get
I'll
to
let you.
sleep
I'll let
a
you
little
get a
bit
little more
later.
sleep since I'm coming into work a little bit
15
later.
more minutes.
Yeah.
So we've been out shooting, and it's been
Dude.
quite a learning experience.
It has been crazy how much has changed in these few
Why
outings.
don't you walk us through what this time has done for you?
I don't even. It's tough to know where to start because I feel like so much has changed, and people know if you listen at all. Like I am a huge auditory processor, and so what that means for me is that I need someone there to talk it out, to bounce ideas off of, to reflect on stuff.
Yeah.
I don't just sit in my own head and look at and repeat over and over what happened or criticize myself. I mean, I criticize myself.
Yeah.
Like, come on, right?
And what we've also learned is Dusty trying to explain things via Facebook Messenger or text messages just does not work well.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not the same.
It's not the same.
as in person. So
Yeah.
we just kind of throw our hands up when it comes to that. We're like, we'll wait to talk
Yeah,
in person.
I'll just
This is not.
I can't
working.
draw pictures.
As great as
you
we
get
are,
mad at me.
as good as we are
Our
talking.
friendship
to each
goes
other.
up in flames, and the podcast is about ready to crumble. It's just not worth it.
Yeah, how many? We've quit this at least 3 times.
Exactly. They've come back together. Yeah.
We've made up. Yeah. No. All right, man. Well, I'll just try to think back to some of the beginning things, and you can bring
Yeah.
up anything.
So basically,
I'm
to sum
missing
it up,
there.
you've really kind of revamped your shot process.
I wouldn't even say revamped. I would say started to
Relearned?
begin an actual
Ooh.
process. Because up to this point, it has all been.
It's a whole new world.
Anyways, I don't know the next words, otherwise singing with you.
Dang it.
But I would say up to this point, or up to before we started shooting together, I'd been hearing some interesting things. You'd finally got me to listen to Joel Turner,
Shot IQ.
Shot IQ, and of course the great and wonderful John Dudley. He's my
He's your godfather.
he's your Aaron Snyder. Or what I'm trying to. Aaron Snyder is to me John Dudley for you. If that makes.
That was totally backwards.
No.
John Dudley is to you
I really
what
like
Aaron
John
Snyder
Dudley.
is to me.
Okay.
There we go.
He's a cool dude. He actually
And
responds
he
to
knows a
things.
thing or two.
Yeah, he knows it just a little bit. And so I had listened to some of the stuff. I had gone out and shot by myself.
Yeah.
And again, just not the same. And so when we finally got together. Well, the first time we were going to do it was great because I think we canceled at least once, and then we're
because
like,
it rained.
because it was raining.
Yeah.
And then you and I were like, well, let's just go do breakfast at least and just
Yeah.
hang out, right? And so then we both met up in Duluth,
Yeah.
you know, and
we're
we're
gonna
both
grab
and
breakfast.
yep.
By the time we met up, it stopped raining. So we're like, well, let's not
Let's
be a
just go
couple of
shoot.
little boys. And let's go shoot.
Let's go shoot. And so we went out there, and I would say for me, that first time of really being able to slow down, talk about the shot afterward, the questions, what were you thinking? Don't forget this, don't forget that, and be able to really think about it. And I think like, so I started to get into like challenging myself to do certain things.
Yeah.
And what I found through that, so like that first outing, it wasn't like I changed a whole bunch of stuff, but we started asking a lot of really good questions.
Yeah.
Cause like, I was like, okay, what's with the
what are you doing
front
with
arm
this?
shoulder creep, right?
Yeah.
And get the nose on the string in the same spot every single time.
Yeah.
And just like I look crunched up,
Yeah.
right? And we took some videos for the Insta and no, but we took some slow motion
true.
videos and stuff. Yeah, it is true. So I went and I started looking at those videos, and it literally, just because I had actually listened to you, I listened to John, I listened to Shot IQ, between all those things coming together, I looked at, I was watching myself shoot.
It was a slow-mo video too.
It was a super slow-mo video.
Well, it was
and-
a slow-mo of the whole draw cycle.
Yeah, it was from the draw to the release, right?
Yeah.
And one thing I remember we walked away with, I was like, you kept it being like, your front shoulder's crunched up, your front
Yeah.
shoulder's crunched up. And I'm like, I'm like trying to lock it out. And then I wasn't putting my nose in a consistent anchor
Yeah.
point, all those things. And so I'm at,
Ready to punch you in the face.
yeah, you
It's like,
were.
just do it.
So I watched this video, and I'm watching it, and all of a sudden I'm at full draw. I see my body at full draw. My nose is at the peep height at this point. Like the tip
Yeah.
of my nose is at the peep height. And then I proceed to watch myself, and I did post this on, I think, my personal Instagram and whatever. We'll post it probably on ours. But as I was watching, I was like, my nose and my neck and everything
Yeah, like you
starts to crank down
Yeah.
to try to find the anchor point, to get my eye actually in line with the peep,
Yeah.
to extend the shoulder. Like, so from this, what was the big part of this is that, okay, my draw, you talked about, and I actually messaged John Dudley, and he hit me back, and he's like, I go a half inch longer. You said before I actually messaged him, you're like, I go a half inch longer.
Pretty much the same as John Dudley.
Yeah, pretty
Might
much.
as well just
pretty much
pay
the
me.
same guy.
I can give you coaching lessons.
And so when I was watching this video, things started to really click for me. I was like, okay, first thing, I saw my neck go really far forward. And so I was like, okay, draw is too short.
Yeah.
Next thing, my neck went, like my head and neck went
Yeah.
way down to get to the string to try to get lined up with the peep. And I was like, okay, my peep sight is way too,
Yeah, like it was like
it was way too low.
it was like an inch plus too low.
Yep. And then,
That was, like,
and
crazy.
then the last thing was going, I bet that's why my shoulder is crunched up, because it's trying to, when you crunch it up, that peep height raises just slightly. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to I'm maximizing my body, like crunching it up to get my nose down to that
Yeah.
peep height. So when I watched that, like things just started click, 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 click. And I'm like, okay, I need to lengthen the draw.
Yeah.
I'll get to that in a second. I need to lengthen the draw, move the peep height, and let's see how that feels.
Yeah.
And so I went to the shop, and we had them move the peep. Like, it was, first he did like an inch, and then we went even further than that.
Jeez.
It was like, oh my goodness. And then that guy goes, you should probably lengthen your draw by half inch. I was like, all right, if the bow shop guy's telling me, John Dudley, some John Dudley guy's telling me, and then Dustin's telling me I should do half inch, I'm like, I'll give it a shot.
It only took 3 people to finally convince you.
3 all super mediocre,
Yeah.
no names. And I was like, all right, so I go, this is so bad, but this is why we do this podcast.
We're gonna share everything.
Oh, yeah, we will.
For
Okay.
good, bad, or worse.
Yep. So I go home, and I got some markers on the cams, right? And I can adjust it at home. And I'm like, oh, I forget which ones do what. And so I sent a couple pictures. I sent a couple pictures to Dusty, and I was like, hey, dude, I just want to make sure I'm moving the right ones.
Well, and then it was funny because all of a sudden I get a picture of like, hey, this is how I adjust the draw length, right? And it's a picture of your draw or your draw stops.
That's true. Yeah, I had
like, no.
Oh man, and I know what I was
Is there
doing.
a little module on it?
Well, what happened was I was legit like I remember looking back, when I was adjusting those, I'm like, oh, I'm adjusting the valley and the back wall, and I'm playing around with this other thing. So I think my stops were in sync,
Yep.
and then my actual draw length
modules
were may or may not have been out of tune.
Yeah, one was sitting at like I don't remember
27,
27,
and then 127 and a half.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was.
I don't know how those got like that.
So cringy. I was like, no.
I hurt. I hurt just seeing all that.
But it's a learning curve, right, guys? All right. So that happened. I felt much better about my bow setup. We'll say after I did that, I started. We went out again after everything was adjusted. And oh my goodness, I felt like a different shooter. This is just the equipment part of it. This isn't even the process part of it. The equipment felt like it was set up for me. And it's like you don't know until you change something. Yeah. And for me, and my tendency is like make something that works and just stick with it.
Yeah.
And so me thinking what I was doing was working, and it didn't take it took a lot of people challenging what I was doing for me to actually be like, okay, maybe this is worthwhile looking into a little bit more, I guess. So we got out there the next Monday or whatever day we went out.
Following Monday.
Yeah, we get out there, both looking super fly, and it's feeling way better. Just the setup. Yeah. Like my shoulders feeling like it's locked in place. It's not scrunched up. I'm not cranking my neck to the side. My draw length is just feeling money. My nose is like the thing I just had to pay attention to was like making sure that string was in the center of my nose. Yeah. And the peep was like just naturally in place. It felt so good. It was weird, dude. It was it was really weird.
I know what that feeling's like.
It was just like a paradigm shift for me. Yeah. It was sweet.
Well, that's for me, it took, a couple of years of really figuring out all of that myself. And then I see a bunch of my friends that are out shooting and they've never taken the time to really dial any of those things in. Because I remember and that's what's so nice about these newer bows is the ability to play around with the draw length. Because I know some bows draw a little shorter, some bows draw a little longer than the actual said draw length.
Yep.
And if being able to play around that half inch, it can make a world of difference.
Yeah, but to their defense and mine, I honestly, for me, it's a little bit intimidating to be for me, I guess, just being new, it's a little intimidating, adjusting those things because I don't want to screw it up. And then it's so simple, once you do it. Yeah. But just the idea of it's oh man, and then also say you quote unquote get it set up. Yeah. But really, you don't know because you haven't played around with it. Yeah. And it's hard to be oh, I want to take the time doing this because it's just not my natural leniency towards
I just want to go kill a deer.
That's bloodlust. Anyway. But yeah, so we changed the actual equipment. Yeah. And oh my goodness, did it make a difference. So I guess just on that note, before we get to the process, if you have not ever tinkered around with it, or just tried things a little bit, or maybe you bought the bow and you never have adjusted something, because that's that's what I did with mine. The peep sight, I just left it. So and that's right, I changed the peep
peep housing.
The peep housing, I think it was a 1/4 inch down to 3/16. Yeah. And that was great too, dude. Yeah. So I'm feeling really, really good just about the setup and actually feeling like it's tailored to me. Because I'm a tailor.
Dead jokes.
Dead jokes. Look out.
Well, in a similar way, in a different way, but similarly, I kind of did the same thing the last couple weeks myself. Ended up selling the one recurve bow I had to get a different one.
What? You?
What? I know. It's shocking that I would sell a bow and buy a new one. I never do that.
You're so committed to.
I am. I'm committed to excellent performance. That's what I'm committed to. No, actually, I got reading and talking with some people like Matt Davis from Mountain Ops because he's a big trad bow guy. And
Matt Damon?
Yeah, Matt Damon. I just kind of realized in reading with my draw length, a 62-inch recurve would be better suited.
I thought you wanted to say 62-inch draw length. I was like,
Yes,
what?
I got a 62 inch draw length. I think it's freakish arms.
No big deal.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. And what was I saying? Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I got to, with my draw length, having a longer draw length, a 62 inch would be better suited. And so I started looking around at that, and then kind of looking around like, oh, I kind of realized like, I kind of want to try an ILF style riser, so that way I can swap out limbs, even play around with different grips.
Yeah.
Because that was one thing with the Black Widow, is noticing I was having a hard time finding a good consistent grip with it. I found that I like a high wrist grip. So my wrist is pretty straight versus really palming into the bow. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna sell this and buy an ILF style riser. So that way I can play around the next couple of years, 2-3 years, and then figure out what I do like. What poundage I like, what, I don't know, style limbs.
Dude, that thing seems super versatile.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, I think a big part of that too was like, you don't feel like you're carrying around a piece of art.
Yeah. And that was another factor too. Like with that Black Widow, I mean, they're so beautiful that I literally was like worried about scratching up when I was carrying it through the woods. Whereas now I can take this, metal ILF riser, and I just don't have to worry about it too. So that's a big factor.
That's got to be nice.
But it was nice though, getting that in, and even because the other one was 60 inch and this new one is 62 inch, and I could feel difference. Like it just, like the string angle, it wasn't quite getting the string pinch that it was, and definitely, dialing that in, and that's made a huge difference.
Well, even the few times we've been out, and I know you've been practicing outside of our outings, it's been really cool to actually watch. Like, was it the first time you
actually hit the target for once?
I think the first time we went out, you had your old bow.
Yep, I had the Black Widow.
Yeah, the Black Widow, and that was fun to watch. And then you came and you were just so lost with.
I was lost.
No, it was really cool to see just how quickly, and I know you practiced outside of our get-togethers. But really, how it was cool to watch those just kind of hone in together and like start to tighten those groups up. And you outshot me a few times for sure, which is really, it's actually fun when you're at 40 yards in a traditional bow. It outshoots you. You're like, oh, that's sweet.
I get lucky every once in a while.
Yeah, you do. Yeah,
I just close my eyes and just shoot it.
Yeah, I just want to see what happened with that one. That's usually what I say after I close, after I miss terribly. Oh, I just want to see what happened if I close my eyes. Just trying to shoot by feel. Yeah, so that's kind of our bow setup. We ended up both of us changed up a bunch of stuff.
Things,
yeah,
and making it a little more just kind of comfortable to who we are, our bodies.
Yeah. So. And that's been a really fun, interesting.
It has been fun,
even though I have some
fun arguments.
Yeah, I have some. I always have my hesitations with changing something, but man, if you haven't tinkered around with your bow and you think there's not even if you think there's something you can improve, if you haven't tinkered around with it to
play around
see
with
what too short, too long is, peep height, all that stuff, I just check it out seriously, because it'll change your world. Because we've seen the shots really improve, I feel, in just a few outings.
And not only like playing around here the last couple of weeks for both of us with the equipment side, but also mentally, that's been, I mean, we've both been kind of learning together just how to shoot better mentally, and the mental process that we need for that.
Well, I think that's, and I'd say that'd be the
bigger,
the
deeper.
Here's the thing profound. Is I don't want to say bigger quite yet.
The more impactful.
I think it will be long-term bigger, but because my bow was so jacked up.
Yeah.
Because it was so jacked up, they both feel really like a really huge deal right now.
Well, the bow wasn't. The user was. User error.
I'll own it. Yep, that was me. I did that. Weird. So we started working on the shot process.
Yeah.
And
thank you, Joel Turner.
As Dusty and Joel Turner like to say, trusting the process.
Trust the process.
I'm still trying to come up with my own mantra, and I haven't come up with anything better, so I'm sure I'll fall in line before too long.
Yes. Honestly, that mantra took me almost 3 years. And I had heard about Joel Turner like a year in, and it still took me like a year plus of figuring out, okay, what's my mantra?
Yeah.
So it'll come.
So there's so much to go over. There isn't. So let's just go into maybe starting
to dive into the mind of Ethan Taylor.
Yeah, you can ask me questions. How about that?
Echo.
Wow. I do have a big head, but not that big. Jeez. Low blow.
It's all love, bro. It's all love.
Yeah. At least I know that. So the shot process. I started listening to Joel Turner, Shot IQ, and coupled with John Dudley and Dusty.
I'm like the annoying voice in the back of your head.
Just do this and you'll shoot better.
It's so hard to listen to. So, which there's way more truth to that than I'm going to admit when it comes to technique, over text anyway. So we go out there, and some of the just general premises of what Shot IQ has talked about are on my mind, right? And you're able to help me start to draw those out a little bit more and like bring those really to a focus point.
Yep.
So one thing that's funny is that a lot of people don't think they have target panic. I would be one of those people who don't think they have target panic.
Lucky.
But it doesn't mean I don't.
Self-deception.
It doesn't mean I don't actually have target panic.
Yeah.
So here's how I'm envisioning target panic coming from a place of I don't have target panic. This is what I've surmised here. Here's what I was doing, people. Subconsciously, albeit, but I was doing it. Now I realize what I was doing is I would draw the bow, and I would draw the bow as close to the target as I could, like on point, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel like there was a bunch of anxiety until I got to we'll say the end of my shot clock. You know, however long you can hold it back.
Yeah.
At full draw. So I wasn't feeling anxiety when I was at full draw. I was like, oh, okay, like I felt comfortable. I feel like I was comfortable with the floating of the pin.
Yep.
But when I say I'm comfortable with the floating of the pin, I'm fine with it going around for a while. But then what I would do is I would subconsciously, you're adorable. Subconsciously, I would be like, okay, it's floating. Now I'm not going to allow it to float. I'm going to hold my breath. Everything's tense. And then I'm going to punch that trigger.
As you close your eyes.
But I didn't think in my mind that I'm punching the trigger.
Yep.
That's just what was happening.
That was just what you thought was needed to happen.
Yeah.
Get it on, lock it in.
Yeah.
Fire.
So it was actually, in hindsight, compared to what we're doing now, it was actually stressful. But when I was doing it, I was like, oh, that's how I hit the target. I'm hitting, in the zone, the area that I would like to do it. But I couldn't tell you what I did well or did poorly on. It was just put it there and punch it off,
so
basically.
With that, kind of bringing it back to like what Turner talks about, the open loop versus closed loop. The open loop, which is what you're kind of doing is just like swinging a baseball bat. Once that bat's in motion, it's not stopping. Like you're just swinging through versus a closed loop, which is, going through and, you're taking your time, and at any point you can stop the process.
Yeah. And so what was happening is there was a lot less letdowns, which we'll get into whether you should let down.
There's a lot of letdowns. I mean, you're letting me down left and right.
Constantly. I mean, you are inundated with letdowns. No, but there wasn't as very many letdowns because I'd get to it's almost like this. I don't know if it's ego, pride, whatever, or like what I feel is determination. Like I gotta hit it. I'm already at full draw. Why not? And just let it fly. Now there is a time to choose to go through and not let down, but we'll talk about that in a little while. And so part of this too, so that's kind of what I was doing, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I was paying attention, like leveling the bubble and all those kinds of things when I get to distance, which there wasn't much distance. But the other part of this, I just lost my train of thought. I was thinking, let me think here.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it was
going off the rails on the crazy train.
Yeah, just keep singing, dude. That's really good.
I'm in a singing mood tonight.
Yeah. So
I'm so sorry, folks.
Yeah, I'm just gonna repeat it and hope it comes back to me.
So you're talking about the shot process. Like you'd go through, you'd get locked on target, and you went to just fire through, and then hearing from Joel Turner's stuff.
Yeah, I still can't think of it, but we're gonna keep moving forward, right? So. That's what I was doing with the shot process is I was getting in on target and then I would just punch it.
Yeah.
Right. And now the thought is back. Okay. And so for me, as I was going into the start of this journey that I'm on, I don't think it ever ends now. But the start of the journey for me was getting over that initial hump of like, well, if I can put it in a pie plate. I mean, my intent is to have all the arrows touching, or a bunch of Robin Hoods, because that's what validates you as an archer.
yeah. Random lucky Robin Hood totally says you are a bomb archer.
Yeah, no, that's
And
what
no
it
more
is.
practice
Everyone
is
knows
needed.
that.
Duh.
Once that's on Instagram, you're good.
Yeah.
You don't even need to practice. at that.
Validates your whole existence.
No, but for me, I think this was something, and I have a hard time. I'm still processing it. Albeit I'm enjoying the way we're doing it now a lot more. But I've heard people ask the question too, like, well, why? If I'm out there, I've been successful.
Yeah.
Why isn't this quote unquote good enough?
Yeah.
Right. And my mind goes to the quote from our what was it?
Oh, Dr. Ashbury
Yeah.
study.
Let me pull that up.
Ashby. Sorry, not Ashbury. Ashby. Jeez, can't even say the guy's name right.
Oh, I want to say it was on like page 1. It was actually really awesome. Yeah, to maximize successful hits, always try for the best, but be prepared for the worst.
Ooh.
And so for me, it's that type of mentality where it's like, okay, you're right, Ethan. A lot of times this will be good enough, but there's going to be times where it's not good enough.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that time is because of a position I'm in a tree and I need to torque my body and I need to remember what process I'm going to do. And if I can't do that process, I need to not take that shot.
Yeah.
And then there's going to be times, Lord willing, that there's a big enough buck that's going to jack me up in the head and I'm going to have to reel myself in, right? And so there's a lot of people, I think, that are in a state of, isn't this good enough?
Yo.
I'm out there, I shoot 30 yards consistently, it's pretty good, but it's like you're on flat ground, right?
Flat ground,
but you're operating in an open loop system.
Yo.
It's all, a lot of it is subconscious,
Yeah.
right? So that's for me, like where I'm starting to try to figure out how to even like present that idea of like, let's do better here, right?
Yeah, I think that I would agree with you, and that's what I think really kicked off us really enjoying talking with one another about archery was just this common shared mentality of okay, well, we're not good, we're just starting out, like, but we want to get better and we want to be good, and it's not just good enough, but to be really good. And if looking at guys like Dudley, like Snyder, like Levi Morgan, these guys that are high level archery.
Some of them have been to the pinnacle, right?
Yeah, I mean, Levi Morgan just won his 3rd year in a row IBO tournament, and he's the 8th time doing it in his life. Like, this guy has got everything dialed in.
Yeah.
I'll probably never get to his level, but I want to try to get there.
Yep.
Because if I become the most efficient, shooter, that's going to pay off. If I can, because I want to be efficient and effective on flat ground, the adrenaline's not going and everything's nice. It's sunny out. I'm calm. Because if I can be as efficient, then it's going to transfer over to heart's pounding out of my chest. It's freezing cold. I might be in a tree stand or I might be at a steep angle.
These factors that you can't simulate outside of a real life situation.
Yeah. And being able to bring it back to good mechanics.
And you know what? Here's the thing.
Both physically and mentally.
Yeah. Here's the thing is that I think there's going to be a lot of people that they can do that. It's going to work well for them. And they're going to make they're going to make some bad shots. They're going to lose animals. And I'm sure we'll lose animals even with our perfect,
I have,
even right.
It sucks.
But are you going to be able to feel like I did everything that I could?
Yeah.
And it's imperfect. I'm imperfect. So things are going to happen. But did I prepare the way I should prepare?
Yeah.
And I've been listening to some podcasts where they're talking to like top athletes, not just in archery, but like snowboarding and all these different things. And it's like, it does take somewhat of like, you're never satisfied where you're like, oh, I've been in a place where I can relax now. It's just, they don't get to that point. And so I don't think it's like everybody is going to absolutely need to do this or they're going to feel that. But I want to be around people as far as like when it comes to archery that are constantly striving to get better, to understand more, to be open and flexible to different ideas and just be willing to listen to them.
Yeah.
So,
and that's kind of going off of that, like what I've seen with you and for me, like, is seeing this process of not just the last couple weeks of your mind, like that mental aspect shifting from like, oh, did I put 3 arrows together touching each other at 30 yards to, oh, did I execute that process well?
Oh my gosh.
And I knew that those arrows versus like, oh yeah, I put 3 arrows together. Like, I'm good.
Yeah, dude. That's So let's get into the process because that for me has been so crazy. Like I never expected
blowing.
sound effects. Okay, we're done. All right, we'll move on. So there's I'd say let's maybe go into some of the most pivotal things for me at this point, right?
So I've started.
Number one.
Well, I've started to put together an actual process.
Yep.
Because it used to just be, this is where I would go. I'd go, and this is how quick it was. Draw back.
Grab bow. Draw
Anchor,
back.
anchor, and smack it when it gets on the where I want to hit.
Yeah.
Right. And I was worried about where it hit. That's
Yep.
and that would be intuitive,
Yep.
not counterintuitive.
Yep.
Most people would be like, where did that just hit?
Yep.
And that's the question, right? And then I would feel a certain way based on where that arrow
How it
hit.
hit,
Yep. It was all dependent on where that arrow hit. After I let go of that arrow, I have zero control over what happens. I wasn't thinking about what I really had in my control until we started going through the process.
Yeah.
And so when the shift went from downrange to
the future, like it's a future focus too.
It is, absolutely. And when the shift went from the future to here and now, totally conscious about what's happening, like what decisions am I making?
Yep.
Right? And so it went from that downrange to me. And then, so what I've started to hone with your help and listening to these other people is I'm like, okay, feet, right?
Yeah.
And then I know my shoulder's an issue because of habit right now.
Yeah.
And so it's feet, shoulder. I lock it in low and out. Like I lock it all the way out and low, right? So it's just like
Locked
it
and
feels
loaded.
It feels like it's actually locked in place.
Yep.
I go anchor points. So I know where I need to touch, make sure my nose is centered on that string. And
even your grip too. Like you've
yes, my grip's totally changed where it's
You
like
know?
it's more relaxed each time. And then I would say this has probably been the biggest, one of the biggest things for me, trying to find out, and you've with the shot clock, right?
Yeah.
This is the most recent development is, so before this last time we shot, I would get at full draw, and it's probably while I'm at full draw, like trying to execute this process of releasing with my back with a trigger, which is a little more difficult.
Yep.
I would be at full draw working through this process of like pulling, squeezing my back together and my finger kind of being on the first, even at the front of the
tip.
Yeah, it's on the tip of the finger where I can really feel everything. And it would take me 10 to 15 seconds for me to release.
It was a long.
I always,
because like your draw cycle would be, a few seconds.
Yep.
And then you'd be sitting there. I remember the
and I
times
let
I was
down
counting.
a lot, right?
Yeah, like you'd let down, which
is like
was
good, right?
Yeah. But it was a long process. I'd be sitting there, I'd be like, because like I've heard Dudley talk about like you got to find your grooves, and some people it's a little shorter, a little longer, but like for him, he found it to be like he was like 8 seconds.
Yep.
Full process.
Yep.
And you're sitting there, you're like 10, 11, 12, like
Yeah.
and you're like, when's this gonna go off? Jesus.
Yeah. Like I was trying to figure out how, like,
Breathe, Ethan, breathe.
Yeah, like I was almost passing out. So what's happened most recently for me is trying to figure out that shot clock. So instead of getting to the point where it's like I am either going to have to let down or like punch the trigger. But the thing is that I'm actually making the decision in my mind, and I'm going, as soon as the thought of like I need to punch the trigger to execute this, I let down, right?
Yep.
But the problem is with my shot clock, we'll say, is it's 15 seconds. So I'm always going to end up getting towards, it's like 15, 20 seconds by the time I'm letting down or deciding to punch the trigger. Thankfully, I can actually say with like a clear conscience that I have not chosen to punch the trigger.
Yeah, that's one thing I will give you a lot of credit. Like you've let down more times in those like 2 weeks of shooting than I probably did ever.
Dude,
in my first 2.5 years of shooting before I came across Turner.
Yeah, which is as we get through this here, I'll mention too. I did talk to Joel Turner about some of what's going on, what I'm learning.
Yeah.
And just kind of thanking him and asking his opinion on some stuff. So what I started so the next step, so it would be feet, shoulder, anchor points, and curl. Now for me, what curl means is I'm going to twist my hand up and around that trigger so that it's at least at the first knuckle or deeper into the hand. And so then what I'm learning is a couple things with that. One is that I'm not going to know right when that's going to go off. So now I really need to be thinking about the correct things. I need to be making the right decisions. And so one thing you've done, even with like tap, like you've seen me get in my own head where I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, and I'm
Yeah.
like, when's this gonna, I'm like, oh, is my anchor in this? And like, it's like, once it's set, I should be able to just focus on one thing.
Yep.
And you've actually
focus on the process.
Yeah. And what I do is in my head, I go, and I'm going to say, keep pulling soon here. But what I was doing was like elbow, elbow, elbow. Cause like I'm pulling my back together, but I'm focusing on pushing that elbow straight back with my finger kind of curled around the trigger.
Yep.
And there's something really satisfying about feeling the bow stretch.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I'm doing it right. But what's been cool is I can stop at any point in the process because I'm engaged in what's happening. I don't allow it to go to the subconscious.
Yep.
I'm barely thinking about what's downrange at all. I'm really focused on that elbow.
Yeah.
And to help me clear my mind, if anybody is out there shooting with somebody where they're working on their process, like Dustin started like just
taking an arrow,
hitting me as hard as
just
he can
whipping
with an
you,
arrow.
just whipping you.
Yeah, he took a
Focus!
He put a broadhead on one and just stabbed into my leg. And man, I just hit the bullseye though.
No, but it did help clear my mind because it was like, oh, I can only think about one thing. It was really weird, but it was really cool.
Well, and I learned that Joel Turner does that,
Yeah.
where he'll take it and he talks about using the distraction to focus because now it's taken all those other like things that you're distracted by.
I'm like, oh, is my nose in the right place? Oh,
and
my
now
hair
you
in the
have
right
to like
place?
pull
Is
it
my
back
bubble
into
right?
okay, what I need to be focused on is that process. And,
Yep.
like for
Yep.
you and I, it's pulling,
Yes.
pulling, and then just trust what we're doing is
Yep.
going to result in good results.
Yes. Okay. So with this, as we're going about this, and this is kind of combined over at least the last 2 times now.
Yep.
I've been able to. This was crazy. Is we started out at 40 yards and we stayed at 40 for like 2 hours, right?
Yep.
And we both started out pretty wide, just in general.
Yeah.
Like our groups weren't that great.
Yep.
Both of us, the last 3 arrows we shot, like mine were within like a fist.
Yeah.
On the last 3 arrows we
Yep.
shot, and yours were like right in the kill zone.
Yeah.
With the trad bow at 40, which is like
Which
impressive.
I was happy with that.
Yeah, you should be.
For only having that bow for a couple weeks. And yeah.
But what changed by the end of that one session was I curled my hand.
Yo.
Everything was right, and I started getting the tempo down at what I when I shoot.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of the extra thinking out of it.
Yeah.
And it was going off really unexpectedly, but it was like
It was smooth.
It was a lot smoother. Like I was just like, all right, I'm here. I trust that I'm going to hold everything in place. Now I'm just going to think about the one thing that is important, and that's pulling.
Boom.
And it just goes off.
Yeah. And you really feeling the process and focusing on the process, which resulted
That's what was so
in accurately placed arrows.
And this is what's interesting.
Isn't that mind-blowing?
Yes, and this is what's interesting is that those arrows is I could tell you based on like right after the shot, and this is I would literally like I could take the shot, not care where it hit. I could turn around and say, this is what I like, this is what I didn't like about how that felt.
Yeah.
Never have I been that like aware of the process and what I'm choosing to do. When you go subconscious, your body's just reacting to the environment that it's in.
Yeah.
So if you see a buck and you got an adrenaline dump, you're going to just go to subconscious if you don't make decisions.
Yeah.
Right. And so when I started making decisions, I started deciding after talking to Joel Turner I was like, oh, I've let down, more times than I probably ever let down in the last year, in my last 2-3 outings. And he's like, why don't you do this? Why don't you, because this is what he says, he teaches this. Why don't you make a decision when you want to let down to focus even more, fight even harder to remain on the process. So when we were down to those last 3 arrows, I had more pin float than any other time. And it was nerve wracking enough where I had to I wanted to let down.
Yo.
Because I was fighting just like punch the trigger when it swipes across the bullseye. But I was like, nope. Keep pulling. I'm exhausted and I've shot X amount of arrows.
Yeah.
And I just trusted the process. And what he talks about is like your subconscious mind is why you don't have to think about downrange.
Yeah.
Wants to go, it'll come bring it back up to that bullseye. But that float is very natural. But as soon as you go above it, it's coming back down. As soon as you go left, right, it's coming right back to that center. It's constantly fighting to put it there.
Yeah.
And so if your process is smooth and you're focused on the correct things, it's going to find where it should go.
Yeah.
And that's what started happening is I said, I got to somewhere I'm like where I would let down because I know I'm going to punch it. Instead, I'm going, okay, I know I'm going to do the process. So I'm going to fight through me wanting to let down or me wanting to punch the trigger and just trust it.
Well, I had to do the same thing too, because like the couple shots prior to those last 3, I was
Wild.
far right, like far right,
Wild.
and just I mean it was bad, but it was from like I mean I was getting tired, and I realized like holy cow, like my front shoulder I'm collapsing, like instead of just like pulling through, like both arms are just like coming in and just like just the whole system's collapsing, and like you really having to I am tired, I know this, my body's fatigued, like really focus, really focus in on getting good shoulder placement and just focus on holding and pulling, pull and just trust. And boom, they just brought him right back in.
And that's what it was really rewarding. So first of all, I guess one other reason, if someone hasn't thought about really increasing their understanding of a shot process and listening to Joel Turner, because he works with like SWAT teams. He's like
he's a SWAT sniper.
Yeah. So it really applies to everything. Like I'm excited to actually use it for my rifle and stuff and start thinking about that. But if you haven't thought about like increasing your ability and you think like you're happy with where you're at, I would just really encourage you to give it a shot, because pun intended, because I actually found that this is way more enjoyable. Shooting. It's way more relaxing. And it's a lot more fun to be able to look at your shot and not be like, I had some arrows that were flyers, right? And I was like, I know exactly what happened with those. I chose to do it despite what was happening. I chose to do the process. I felt good about my process, but the rest wasn't there. And I'm okay with that because I chose to do it. It was a decision, knowing that this may not go exactly where I hope at this time. Right?
Well, and even watching like, the previous like video clips you would send me here and there and be like, hey, how's my form? Like watching you could literally
say it like that. I don't go, hey, how's my form?
Well, that's how I hear you in my head. So
oh my gosh,
that's how you hear.
I need to bring out like an alter ego that just
this voice only. Tyler Durden. So like even watching those video clips, like you could visibly tell how you were shooting was so subconsciously done, because it was just so like unfocused. You'd knock an arrow, draw back, and just fire. Like you could tell like you were not like in the present at all. It was just like, I'm just trying to put a bunch of arrows in a pie plate and call it good.
Yeah, that's basically it.
And then seeing that shift, because I had that same shift last year, was learning how to trust that process and experiencing for the first time, going like, I felt that, like all I focused on was the process, and I just put it in the bullseye.
Yeah.
How does that work?
That is
it's mind blowing.
Yeah, and this is like, I don't know how through you talking with me a lot, asking a lot of good questions. That was really key for me, was like you were asking a lot of good questions.
Yeah.
Even when I went to switch releases, right?
Yeah.
To a thumb release, was it?
Yeah, you're trying to try a thumb release. And I was like, okay, why? What's the purpose of doing this? What's this going to accomplish?
And before you asked me that question, I listened to Joel Turner. Ooh. And he was just saying, he said, there's a lot of guys that will switch releases.
Trying to fix their problem.
Try to make it work for them. And they say, it didn't work for me.
Yeah.
And he goes, you have to work for it.
Yeah.
And then when you said, why are you switching? And I'm going, I've already tried to use it, and I'm like, it's uncomfortable. I don't like it. And then in my mind, I'm going, it doesn't work for me. And then you ask, well, why are you doing it? And I go, I think in my head, coming up with some really good excuses. And then I was like, you know what? That release is not going to make me a better shooter right now. Yeah. I started to realize and started to click that the things I needed to change was in between my ears.
Yeah. And that was for me, like my release journey, going through the various styles, like going from a finger to various hinges. Like I was chasing what I thought was the solution to my target panic, because unlike you, I was the guy that I had full on target panic.
Like, what does that even feel like? I mean, like acknowledging.
Like
for me, I'm like, I don't know.
For you, I think it was like what you're feeling, but 200 times more. Like you might be like, it's on target. Now I got to squeeze.
Yep.
And you felt like you were in control the whole time, even if you necessarily weren't.
Yeah.
I was the guy that I got to the point of like, it's on target. Duh! Like my
really?
whole body would just be like bad. And so I changed releases, and to some degree it helped, but it didn't fix the real issue, which was between my ear. And so it wasn't until I got to like the Carter Evolution, which was a tool that actually allowed me then to work on specifically addressing.
Now, is that the tension release?
Yep.
Where you set it a few pounds above your draw?
Yep.
weight. Is that right?
Draw weight, and so it forces you to
have
pull
to
through.
pull through.
Yeah,
You have no other choice.
So it wasn't that fixed it, but it helped me actually address the real issue, and it was a tool.
Yeah.
And have to work on that pulling, trusting the process. And
Yeah.
once I started trusting the process, it was like, oh, okay. Like I don't.
Yeah.
I that target panic went away, because now it's like I could be on target. It'd be floating. It'd be fine. And it was just I just need to do what. I was worried about what was happening on the back end, not the front end.
Yeah, and I know that's gonna seem, because it did to me. It seems like such a foreign idea.
Yeah.
Like, well, what do you mean you can't focus on the target?
Yeah.
It's like your brain takes care of that part.
Yeah.
Like
Your
it really
subconscious.
does. You know, you're looking at the point you want to shoot, but you're thinking about what you are in control
Yeah.
of. Because
And-
there's going to be float. There is.
Yep. Yeah.
No one's
Yeah.
going to hold it perfectly
Yeah.
stable.
Yeah.
And I guess this is another thing that has occurred to me as we're talking here too, is that, and I've kind of said it in different ways, but it's actually been a lot more fulfilling. So when I squeeze off a shot and I hit right in the bullseye, and I did it only a few days before this,
Yep.
and I was like, oh, cool, got to take a picture. But I couldn't tell you how I made that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Now I could tell you how I made that happen, what I did right. And even if I did hit the bullseye, I would say, you know what, I could have done better on this part of it.
Yeah.
And so it's made it a lot more fulfilling, not starting to shoot in a way where I'm consciously there through
Yeah.
every step of it. And what that takes, and what it took for me, was you and me kind of being together in like the auditory thing.
Yeah.
But what that takes is
sit
really
there.
being able to
Pull, keep
Yeah.
pulling, keep
well, and the
pulling,
reason, and that keeps
pulling.
you present
Yo.
in what's happening where you're at right now. We can. I don't know how much we need to go into it and just have them listen to some shot IQ stuff.
We just need to provide some links to Joel Turner and his shot IQ stuff, because he explains it way better than we can.
Yeah, he gets really technical, but it
Yeah.
makes it relatable,
Yeah.
understandable, and you're like, I
And
had not thought about that.
because he's coming at it from a scientifically based approach. Like, this is how the mind works,
And it's
this
part
is
of-
this is how we're wired, and this is how to use it to our advantage.
Yeah. And so, you guys, I don't know how I can encourage you to start this process, or if there's something I, myself, or Dustin can do to help you out or point you in the right direction. I will do all I can, because it is seriously like
Yeah.
revolutionized
It's-
just my time out.
Yep.
And I feel way more comfortable about, like,
if I see a deer, I know that it's about me where I'm at,
Yeah.
not where that
Where
deer
the-
is at, right?
yeah.
And so like I'm really excited for Bow Fest,
Yes.
especially because I'm
Yes.
like, oh,
now it's time to test it.
yeah, exactly. Some real life pressure.
Yeah. Well, I think too, like you talked about, the shift in mindset changes the whole process, because now, like, going out before, you're always like, my goal is to accomplish putting 3 to 5 arrows in this bullseye
For
and
a
if it-
picture, yep.
Yeah, for a picture. And if I did that, it was cool. It was good. How do I get better?
Yeah, there's no step to improve.
Versus now, like, I can go out and now I'm constantly improving. Might be a little bit, might be one aspect someday, but it's just like, it's just this constant evolution. And I think it stems from a desire to want to get better. Like, if you're just happy with putting arrows in a pie plate at 20 yards, well,
yeah. Here's
Cool.
the thing. Reps
But-
won't. This is what I was under the impression. Reps, but this isn't true. Like, reps will not be good enough. Just
No.
reps for reps' sake
Yeah.
will not be good enough. What you're enforcing, and I'm
practice
totally
doesn't make
confident.
perfect.
I'm totally confident in saying this, and I'm really new at archery, but I really trust what we're doing. Like, you're out there, if you're not conscious and you're not doing a real shot process that
Yeah.
you can, after every shot, say this is what was good, this is what was bad,
Yeah.
or like have some thought about it afterward, you're just reinforcing habits that you don't even know exist.
Yeah. Well, then too, you think about it, take it one step further. And once we get these habits really ingrained,
Yeah.
to where now, okay, we know when there's good and bad shots.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, oh man, that was a really good shot. Why did that arrow hit there? Huh.
Yeah.
Maybe it's actually the arrow. Maybe it's some part of the equipment.
Yeah.
It allows for a greater understanding of not just how
Yeah.
you operate, but your equipment operating. Because otherwise, if you suck, like if you're grouping a pie plate at 20 yards, well, how do you know it's you versus the equipment being sucky?
Yeah.
Or are you
Well,
both sucky?
Well, great example is
We might just be both sucky,
Yeah,
so.
that's true. Well, the great example is we started out at 40 yards, right?
Yeah.
And I said, like, when we started shooting, I kept shooting left. And I
Yep.
said, I'm not not making any adjustments to my bow because I
Yep.
don't think I have the experience to say whether it's me or the bow.
Yeah, because the other time we were out, we eventually worked our way out to 40, and you were quote unquote on at 40, like you were
Right, yeah,
in
yeah.
the bullseye that day.
In the area. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But this is what happened though, is that even that same day we went from like, I'm not adjusting something to, you know what?
I'm hitting here consistently.
I know, well, and the thing is that I knew why I was hitting there. Like I felt like I knew why. I
Yeah.
felt like, hey, this is happening right at release. Like as I'm pulling back because my finger wasn't wrapped around enough. I know that I'm pushing it to the left. And so I was able to actually feel really comfortable going, I'm going to move this because I trust that if I do this right, it's going to be hitting more accurately.
yeah,
And without like the thought process, I'd be like, oh, I just change it. And
Yeah.
maybe it's good, maybe it's not. I don't know.
Yeah.
But then when I get out in the field, am I going to be able to go, oh, I missed this deer, or I'm confident I made a good shot because
Yeah.
I went through the process correctly. I can tell you everything that happened. And the first deer I missed, which I did end up getting, that 8-point buck.
yeah.
My buddy Ben asked me a question. Well, do you remember? Did you drop your bow arm? Did you slap the trigger? Did you bend at the waist? I was like, I don't remember any of that.
So you're so focused on that,
dude, it's
the end goal.
Yeah, it's a world of difference now. Mike,
And that's how I was. Like, I mean, the first year I shot at last year, I 100% remember the whole shot process because I had been drilling every single day for like a month. And even before that, I had been shooting like 3-4 times a week.
Yeah.
And to where like I was present, like that whole shot process felt good.
Yeah.
The deer I actually got,
Yeah.
the shot process, I barely remember knocking and drawing back and shooting.
That's
Like
so
actually, I do remember like drawing back, shooting, lifting my head to watch where it hit.
Yeah.
Like I
yeah.
remember, and that's why I was off like a foot to the left because I pulled it.
Yeah.
I know it.
Yeah.
And so I guess in one sense, like I had developed a good shot process, and I screwed it up so bad that I knew how bad I screwed it up
Yeah.
by not doing it. And
Yeah.
so it goes a long ways.
Yeah. And I don't know what more to add or how to convince people that it's
Yeah.
worthwhile, but man, if there's one thing that you're doing,
Yeah.
like you just,
Yeah. Go check out Joel Turner, Shot IQ.
yeah, he's got just countless episodes out
Yeah.
there and with different people asking
Yeah.
good questions.
We'll post a link to 2 or 3 that we have found super helpful.
Yeah, that would be
'Cause
awesome.
It really is a game changer, and it's hard not to tout him as that, but he hits an area where he's the Dr. Phil of the mine when it comes to
That's
shooting.
what they call him, isn't it? I've heard a couple
I'm
people
sure
refer to
he
him as
hates that that reference. Oh, Dr. Phil, great.
wonderful.
There could have been better references.
Yeah, I'm a SWAT sniper, and I'm being called Dr. Phil.
Phil.
That's hilarious. All right, Dusty, where can they find us, dude?
The short answer is go to our bios, and we'll have a link to all of our links. But the long answer is YouTube,
Facebook,
Podbean,
Instagram,
and some other places
some
that nobody
obscure
ever goes.
Google Play Music,
Play.
Castbox.
Yeah, iTunes, of course,
yeah,
iTunes. You
of
probably
course.
listen to this on iTunes.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us. This has been a blast. Again, if there's any questions at all, we want to hear them. So thanks for joining us today. See you guys later.
Peace out.